Facebook friends, Marianne here. You're getting me on my back because, as some of you know, earlier this year, when I jumped off of a ski lift because they let the kids out too late, I went splat at my best Warner Brothers cartoon character impersonation and sprained my back. So as you see me traipsing around Europe, and Lord knows you have to walk everywhere around Europe, it just wears my back out. So I'm like, but in this room, look at this ceiling. Is that not a gorgeous ceiling? Only in old buildings. But I think it's beautiful. Anyway, so that's why you have me on my back. Anyway, but I wanted to take a moment to check in with all y'all because I haven't had a chance to really catch up on everything. And this has been a surreal time in my life, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I did not have any plans to really be in Italy for longer than 48 hours this year. Funny how that goes. But which brings me back to two things. You know, when I was a kid, I was the kid that always was sent to the principal's office. Always. My friend April Davis loves to tell everyone she was the one that got in trouble. And you know what? April was absolutely correct. I was always being sent to the principal's office because I did what was a big no-no. And that was going to the upper school library. We were supposed to only stick to the lower school library. But the upper school library had much more interesting, fabulous books that opened up worlds for me. And one of the people that I loved to read was the work of Dr. Irvin Laszlo. So I would go in there and I loved just bringing all the things he had into my brain because he talked about systems, and now it's integral philosophy, but back then it was systems theory. And as a systems theorist, he understood that we, you and me, Homo sapiens sapiens, are part of a much bigger system in the world. So, for example, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Mind Walk. It's an old 1980s movie, but it's one of my absolute favorites. And there's a scientist character there, and she gives a wonderful example of systems theory. So if you look at an acorn tree, you know, and you see all the acorns it produces, and you go, oh, what a waste of energy. Look at the way all that sunlight and all the nutrients are being used. That's a lot of big waste of energy. Yeah, it kind of looks like that if you're just looking at the tree by itself. But if you look at the whole and you start thinking, what else is that tree doing? You start realizing there are animals that eat and defecate it, and that seed goes out, fully fertilized, and gets to create a new acorn tree. You start realizing that there are other animals, like the squirrels, that eat them and then plant a few and forget where they are, and so there's a symbiotic relationship because the tree gets procreated again, but other animals eat it, and then other animals don't even participate in its procreation, but they rely on that tree for a big food source. And you start seeing larger and larger and larger systems, and when you take the system, that acorn tree is making just enough acorns to fully participate in the system. So that's systems theory, understanding that no species, plant, or to quote one of my wonderful friends, Gregory Gomez, an Apache spiritual leader. Love to you, Gregory. He loves to say the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged, and the finned. So all of us, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged, and the finned, all of us are part of the same system. And it's when we only look at ourselves in silos that we get in trouble. That's like cancer. That really is the definition of cancer in the human body. And just like the microscopic version of it, you know, of a cancer in our body, we are basically the cells on the world body. So when we get out of acting systemically, that's when we get in trouble, and we make the system that is the earth and our environment and the larger world, and, get into trouble. And as a young kid, that made total sense to me because, and some of you are sick of me telling this story, but I'm going to say it again, so here's fair warning for you. But I remember when my dad came home and he had what I called his homework. He had a list of all these numbers, and then it went from like 75 cents all the way up to $25, and then he had the list of names of countries beside it. And he would go, and I went through all that because I was nosy, and I would look through it, and I said, what are you trying to do here? And he said, well, the shareholder set out to manufacture something for $7.50. So I'm going to look up the country that's asking for that. And I said, well, why don't you go to the country asking for like $1.25 and give them the pre-approved $7.50 and make everybody happy. And I walked away. And my dad tracked me down. He got on his knees and he looked me in the eye and he said, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me what my real job in this world is. And I didn't think anything about it. And, I just went on back to whatever it was I was doing. Transformers. I was that kid that liked Transformers and Barbies. Sometimes it was the Barbie that kicked the Transformers' ass. But anyway, so I went back and did my own thing. And then years later, I remember him coming into my room and saying, remember that? And don't ask me where it was. I just remember somewhere in South America. He said, I did that. And they built roads, they built schools, they built clinics, and not a dime was charity. And that's why I've been doing all this work with Denny Charity at DC Finance and other places, because I see good people doing good things. I mean, heck, my dad was out there doing, what was it? It's all the telethons, from the March of Dimes to Jerry's Kids and Muscular Dystrophy. He did all that stuff. He was the first CEO to really participate in that. So, he had an amazing heart that did good things. But to be reminded when you're behind the desk of whatever decision you're making, you are making decisions about lives. And this is what really ignited my understanding. There's the ecological ecosystem, there's an environmental ecosystem, and there's a economical ecosystem. And all of them now more than ever interchangeably, absolutely intimately, interdependently connected. So, growing up, that's how I grew up, and I understood that. So it made perfect sense to me that Dr. Ervin Laszlo's works were explaining to me things that weren't explained in school. I mean, as I started learning about psychology and sociology, I'm like, why is this not part of how we learn history? I was much more interested in the whys of history than I ever was the dates. I didn't care that such and such happened on what date. I wanted to understand why such and such happened on what date. What was the impetus that made them motivated, that made whole groups of people decide to follow somebody, to do something, to embrace an ideal, and especially if that ideal wasn't good for them? How could understanding that help us know how to motivate whole groups of people to go in a positive direction? I didn't know, and I wanted to find out. So Dr. Ervin Laszlo spoke about systems, and later integral theory, and I just dived into it and went, this makes sense to me. And as I grew up, it informed everything I was doing. And those of you that know what I do, the work with the Mimsy Institute, also know I was inspired by this ancient university called Xochicalco, located outside of Cuernavaca, where all these different tribes of completely different cultures, and we even brought His Holiness the Dalai Lama's Ambassador of Compassion to the world, Lama Tenzin Doden, with us there. We've brought Her Excellency Oye Aina Alomo there, and she's recognized Yoruba things there. Lama Tenzin Doden recognized Tibetan snow tigers there. So we suspect that there was more intercultural exchange than the traditional archaeology even suggests. But archaeologists will agree that you see architectural styles from multiple different types of tribes all over the world. And you can find seeds that were left there from tribes from all the way up in Alaska down to Argentina, where things were exchanged, and so now they go wild. And there's one place, it's like a natural seed depository. So anyway, I was inspired by the fact that this was something that half the world, all the Americas, North, Central, and South America, come together and to peacefully exchange knowledge. And the symbol of that place was the butterfly, which is why we have it in the Mimnazine logo. And so the combination of these things just made me go, this is what I have to do with my life. And even those of you that know me from high school know that I was all about, we got to bring in this renaissance of humanity and uplift humanity to become this era in which we can embrace the fact that we are interconnected and use that interconnection and knowledge of that interconnection to uplift humanity to where we are thriving, to where all of us can address the world's problems, but from a philosophy and understanding that we are absolutely integral to each other's survival, that our neighbor who is struggling, their struggle is our own because they are part of the larger body of humanity, which is part of the larger body of the earth, which is part of the larger body of spirit. And so to me, all of this made complete sense. And this brings it back to what's so funny about right here and now. So over the years, and I want to give a big shout out to Michelle Costa, who invited Joshua and me to join his Design Me a Planet conference in Austria years ago. And when we went there, we got to meet Ervin Laszlo. And of course, this was a big deal for me because he was the man that got me in trouble all those years. Just kidding, I got myself in trouble. But all those years, I had gone down there, to that library, skipped class, read those books, and just loved it, and it helped inspire me so much. And so here I am now coming to get, to Italy to just congratulate and be there as Irvin Laszlo receives the highest award given to a scientist in Italy. And this award is only given to people who have made a huge impact in areas of quantum physics and areas of biology and in bringing philosophy and philosophical understanding into it. And it makes sense that this was done in Italy where the Renaissance sprang. So this is what we were looking at. But anyway, so we come there, we're celebrating, and I sit down with them because we're going to be doing a book together, which is a course about integral theory, which is coherence. That is the name we've chosen for our book together. And if you had asked me when I was a kid going to the principal's office and Mrs. Marion Croom would have me hiding underneath the window of her office so that she'd be able to tell people that I was doing my time in the principal's office, when in reality she said, I can't punish a kid for wanting to learn. So she would have me under the window and I'd be reading Irvin's books under there. And if someone came into her office, she'd have me sneak under her desk before she'd let them in. So that's what I did for years and years, of reading Irvin's books and diving into that world and having expand my mind. And so if you told me that I was going to get to write a book with this man who had played such an incredible role in my own work and life, I would have said, wow, that seems greater than, I can't even believe it would be happening. So this is what we were working on. We started working on it a few years ago, and then we started realizing, unfortunately, because my mom had Alzheimer's, everything got put on hold. So then after that, I come in and we sit down, and Irvin looks at me and he says, I don't know if I want to do another book. And of course my heart just drops. Here's a dream. And it just drops. And then he goes, here's the thing, Marianne. I've written books on everything. I want to do a book with you, but only if you are willing to help usher in a new renaissance of human thought that is about uplifting humanity forward and bringing in an understanding of how we are systematically linked to each other and how this is necessary for human evolution to thrive. And he essentially quoted back to me what I've been dedicating my life to working on for the last, basically through my adult life, and what I dreamed of doing as a kid. So this was absolutely surreal. Here I am being offered what I've dreamed of doing, but only if I fulfill what I've dreamed of doing. So I don't know how things could get more surreal than that, or I didn't think I could. And then in the middle of all this, I hear from a friend of mine, Tara Singh, and she's getting together with Renzo Piano because of a project she's doing out in Florida. And she says, hey, Renzo Piano is noticing that there is this need, this great uplifting of humanity to embrace the way we are part of the world together. And it was all, again, the same thing. She's like, and we need you to come and speak on this. This has been one of the most surreal things, and all this right on the end of getting to meet Joanne Collins because Sky Andrew decided that he wanted Mimosine Institute to be part of his wonderful inspirational awards. So, in the midst of that, I bring in a friend of mine, Chelsea Toller, who's a wonderful mentee, so deserving, and she got the Mentor Award because she's doing things to help others find mentors. And she is really focused on helping logic to be something that is more and more embraced in the world, which is absolutely necessary. And especially as we look at things like the TikTok issue and whatnot, people need to embrace it more and more so that we have what I like to call the sociological software to deal with our technological hardware. So anyway, I'm looking at someone like her, in her 30s, and I'm looking at Irvin, and he's 92, and I'm right here plop in the middle of them, and they're all talking about the same thing. And now I'm into piano is too. And now here it is, this incredible opportunity to fulfill a dream, but only if I live up to one of those other dreams. And I don't know how much time I have on this earth. I've had strokes, I've had my seizures, I've had all sorts of things. But I know this is why I was adopted and put into this family that's allowed me to have the means and education and access to the people who are helping to move in and usher in this exciting era in time. And I know I am just one piece of a much larger puzzle. And being here now in Florence and a city where, and tonight, Joshua and I just walked through and interacted with all these wonderful and fascinating machines and inventions that Leonardo da Vinci made. But behind all the inventions was a desire to push humanity forward. And I realize more than ever now, the 18-year-old me that did a show with Stacey Wilson talking about ushering in a new era of human evolution, one in which humanity embraces its full potential by embracing its integral nature with the world around ourselves, and how that would be absolutely necessary to once again recognize that just within humanity we have the ecosystem of the planet, the ecological ecosystem, the sociological ecosystem, and the economical ecosystem, and how all those things that form what we are as humanity connect us with the larger part of the earth, which connect us with spirit. And all of us have to understand that regardless of our culture, our race, our cultural identity, our sexual orientation, our gender, whatever it is we identify, we are part of that whole. And being able to be part of a process to usher in an opportunity for humanity to discover our greater coherence with each other in this world is something that is a true blessing. So I originally had created a much larger thing to share with you all, so this is a much shorter one, but I hope, despite hearing my husband showering in the background, that this will kind of give you an idea of this incredible and beautiful adventure that I've been blessed to be on. And one of the big things that I also wanted to share with you all is that when you're dealing with struggles, and again, that's why you have me on my back, I'm having to rest it from having sprained my back. Who sprains a back, really? I didn't even know that was really possible. I thought it was something you do in joints, but I guess the whole back is a joint. But, and it wears me out. But these experiences have led me to understanding that we are each so intimately involved and interdependent, even more than I realized, on each other. And, you know, the people that have come to my rescue through this process and kept me going, the incredible team in Dallas, Isabel Razinaw is going to be heading up, meeting with one of our board members, Kunal Sood, up at the United Nations later this week. And hats off to Akshaya Patra, who are celebrating their 1 billionth, not millionth, billionth meal being served and being recognized in the United Nations for it. And they've invited the Mimsy Institute to be part of it because so many of them have made their money in, the UK or in the United States, and they realize they want to start giving back to those countries as well as continuing their work in India. And in those countries, they are working with us, the Mimsy Institute, with our Food Source program, which has gone from being Food Source DFW to being Food Source USA and Food Source UK. And where, thanks to Reverend Dr. Collier, we have been able to save $55 million worth of food that would have otherwise been in landfills, and it has gone all the way to the Four Corners, to Alaska, to Hawaii, to Puerto Rico, to Haiti, and last year, because of our connections with the Red Cross, got to the Ukraine, and it's because of that we realized we need to have a European hub. So that was one of the reasons why Joshua and I have been putting so much work with David Solomons and Lord Andrew Stone and Baroness Sandeep Verma and setting up that hub along with Sky Andrew, Adana Amadei, and so many wonderful other people, Trey Lowe and Enos Decay up in London. And meanwhile, there's Reverend Hiromi Yano and the work that he has been doing with our Japan chapter, which he is now, thanks to that chapter's desire, expanding throughout Japan, and is making sure that they can take all the experiences they've had with hosting Palestinian Israeli kids over the past years with the Shinto Emotos initiatives. They've learned a lot about reconciliation, and now he is taking all that experience and applying it with Mimzine's programs and helping reconciliation with South Korea and with the original Ainu, that's AINU, people of Japan. For those of you that are in London, you have an Ainu exhibition going on, so go check it out. But anyway, all of that. And then I look at what we're doing, in Dallas with the land, direct donated, right behind Dallas City Hall. I look at, how we are putting in exhibitions that I was sharing with Irvin that are explaining and educating, not lecturing, but letting people discover their coherence with the world and each other, from quantum physics to music to biology, to our shared human consciousness, which is based on an AI that Thomas Q. Johns is doing. And I look at just the exceptional people that have come and gone and made the MIMSI Institute what it is. And all I can say is I'm in awe. I'm in awe of all of you. I'm in awe of these communities, and and let's not forget all of the indigenous communities, especially down in Mexico. Angel Salub has done incredible work down there with the Maya community. And I look at the Tolteca, and a huge shout out to Ricardo, who's being recognized. That's Ricardo Cervantes Salamis Kepetecutli, spiritual leader of the Tolteca, not to be confused with the New Age War agreements. These are real people recognized by the federal government and UN. He is being recognized by the federal government for his work this week. So Ricardo, hats off to you. Please know that even when I'm not with you, you are always influencing the humanitarian work we do in the world. You are a gift to so many. And for those of you that don't know, because of their location, the Tolteca Cultural Center has been serving the chiefs of all the different Native American tribes around Mexico who use it as a main meeting place. So they are doing phenomenal work. So hats off to all the Tolteca down there, especially Irma Leon and Tonatiuh Cervantes as well. So just wanted to give you guys an overview of some of the exciting things that are happening. Of course, coming up in April, MIMSI Institute, under the leadership of Wendell Withrow, is going to be going full speed ahead with the Oak Cliff Earth Day Festival. And we have a huge thing of thanks that we want to give to the Dallas Zoo, because the Dallas Zoo stepped up this year and they are our main sponsor. So thank you, Dallas Zoo, for doing that. So we're excited about what that is going to be this year. And also, for those of you that are unaware, Green Source DFW is transitioning into being Green Source Texas, which, as for those that are not aware, Texas is larger than France. So we are going to be serving one heck of a Lone Star state. Looking forward to that, and we need more sponsorship on that. So a lot more to share with you, but hopefully this gives you an update and lets you see how crazy the trajectory of this world can be. And I cannot wait to share more soon.